Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we begin with a look at how Ontario is taking steps to strengthen the border as Donald Trump continues to threaten Canada with tariffs. Pratyush Thayal reports.
Operation Deterrence is what the Ontario government is calling its plan to crack down on illegal border crossings and illegal guns and drugs. It'll also include Ontario Provincial Police having an emergency task force of 200 police officers who will work alongside specialty and frontline officers. But will this be enough?
Long overdue that we do a coordinated effort.
Harbour Master Peter Berry of the Windsor Port Authority says the undefended long border will need a lot more.
200 really is just a start. There needs to be a lot more. We also have to augment that with technology, whether it be cameras or sensors, radar. So I do believe this is the beginning.
Here at Port Authority, they have thousands of dollars worth of equipment to monitor portions of the border for any suspicious activity, which according to Berry has been on the rise.
We've seen a significant increase of attempts to cross. They get called in as marine emergencies. We end up having to provide rescue services. However, those are the ones that we're aware of. There's likely others occurring as we speak today. And that's because we do have that long, undefended border.
Berry says that better technology and intelligence gathering and infrastructural upgrades will be needed for 200 officers to work effectively. All this comes after Donald Trump threatened to impose tariffs that can crush Canada's economy, saying he wants new border controls on the flow of migrants and fentanyl.
I think the fact that it's coming is reactive, of course, to the tariffs, but this is something we've needed to do all along to protect our border, whether it's the flow of drugs or guns or the illegal immigration that's been occurring.
Premier Doug Ford says now that the province has a plan, he's calling on the federal government to step up and address the safety and security concerns at the border. Pratyush Thayal, CBC News, Windsor.
Donald Trump's tariff threat isn't the only thing putting Canadians on edge. His latest outrageous comments about joining Canada to the U.S. are fueling more concerns. Chris Reyes has the details of what Trump said and Justin Trudeau's response.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security.
Definitive and insistent, President-elect Donald Trump said he would consider using economic force to make Canada the 51st state, a suggestion he first made in mid-December on social media, previously dismissed as a joke. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau fired back with this punchy post on X. There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States, he said. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit from being each other's biggest trading and security partner. At the press conference from Trump's Florida home, he spoke broadly about the priorities of his incoming administration, repeating his tariff threat on Canadian imports.
We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have.
In a post on social media, Trump said if Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs. Together, what a great nation it would be, he wrote.
I have so many great friends. One of them is the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I said, run for prime minister, you'll win it'll take 2 seconds, but he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better.
Trump also spoke about acquiring Greenland and taking control of the Panama Canal. When asked whether he would rule out military force on that plan, he said this.
I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this. We need them for economic security.
An emboldened Trump setting the stage for big battles, still 2 weeks before he officially takes office. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has also responded to Donald Trump's latest comments. On X, he wrote the following: Canada will never be the 51st state, period. We are a great and independent country. We are the best friend to the U.S. And adding, in part, we spend billions of dollars and hundreds of lives helping Americans retaliate against al-Qaeda's 9/11 attacks. Up next, we were expecting to hear about a sentencing in a major drug case today, but it's been delayed. Jason Vio explains.
A man at the center of a $36 million cross-border drug trafficking operation was set to be sentenced and go to jail this week, but that has been pushed over until July. Why is there a 7-month delay? Well, 33-year-old Marvin Watson, the accused in this case, is having his first child with his partner. Now, the judge in this case allowed this delay, saying it's an exceptional circumstance, and local defense lawyer Laura Joy isn't involved in this case at all, but says in her experience, courts do have compassion and instances like this are common.
This accused pled guilty. He is looking at a lengthy sentence. It allows him to get his affairs in order, and I think it shows compassion as well. And so please remember, he's pled guilty, so that means on a serious matter, he's spared the courts the resources. For a justice system to be effective, there must be compassion. There must be empathy. If we don't have that, what are we doing?
Now, this specific case all started in March of 2023 when CBSA officers found 300 kilograms of meth hidden in a semi-truck entering Canada on the Ambassador Bridge. That led the RCMP to start looking into where the drugs came from and where they were going. Police say they uncovered that Marvin Watson was the organizer of this operation. He's from Toronto. When they arrested him in Toronto, they found 120 kilograms of cocaine in a moving van he was driving and another 100 kilograms of meth and other drugs in his home. The RCMP says what was seized here and at the border has a street value of roughly $36 million. Then in September of last year, Watson pleaded guilty to importing meth, importing cocaine, and trafficking meth, among a few other charges. His partner also pleaded guilty to laundering and was given a conditional sentence of 2 years. Watson was expected to be sentenced to a significant time behind bars this week, but again, that was adjourned until July 15th because he's having his first child. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy is with us now for a quick look at weather. Colette, how's it looking into the evening?
Well, it's here, you know, the coldest air of the season. Last night we only dropped to about -5. We're going to double down on that tonight with, just look into northern Ontario, Sandy Lake, -22, Kapuskasing, -18. That core of colder air. There are extreme cold weather alerts to the north. We're just at -3 right now. Okay, we're going to ease into this, but we are going to have that temperature really dropping off, and so we fall to -10 with the winds. It will feel like -17, a very chilly start tomorrow morning, so you do need to be dressed and have the kids dressed appropriately as you send them out the door. And then tomorrow afternoon, just -5 for that daytime high. When is this cold snap going to snap? Well, I'll have the details on that coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Let's turn back to politics now. We are expecting a federal election soon, but there are also lots of questions swirling about whether there will be an early election call provincially. Queen's Park is not sitting again until March, but the political strategizing is still happening. Lorenda Redekop has more.
People will notice something coming soon from Doug Ford and his government, those $200 rebate checks.
These are tax dollars going back to the taxpayers, and we're going to give it back to every single person in Ontario.
But the opposition parties see them as an early election ploy to try to win votes.
I think people always like to get a check. If the government is foolish enough to send you a check, you be smart enough to cash it, as the phrase goes.
NDP leader Marit Stiles will be traveling the province this month, including to some ridings the party hopes to steal in the next election, whenever it may happen. And the party is getting its campaign team in place
to ensure that every single Ontarian has a family doctor within 4 years.
The Liberal leader has already announced what her #1 campaign issue will be. Also expect Ontario Liberals to continue to distance themselves from the federal Liberals. Bonnie Crombie's website is branded Team Bonnie at the top. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom to find the word liberal. Here she is last month talking about Justin Trudeau.
I will tell him when I think he's wrong. Like on the carbon tax, he's wrong.
Also on her website, a link for donations. All the parties will try to bring in more money this month, with individual fundraising limits reset in the new year.
So you see a push to get everybody to what we call max out by the end of December, and then you start again in January.
Plus, all the parties will continue nominating candidates. The PCs have most of theirs already in place. This Conservative strategist says they have an advantage.
While they were in opposition, they learned all the things that they have to do all the time. Always have candidates ready to go, always be fundraising, and always be door knocking.
Over the past few months, Premier Ford focused on issues that create a wedge with the other parties, like removing bike lanes, getting rid of encampments, and building a tunnel under the 401.
Wedge politics will always work in the short term. It will raise you more money. It will get you more clickbait. But does it solve the problem that is facing Ontarians?
Opposition parties will be working to show they're the ones who can solve those problems. All the parties preparing just in case. Brenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Windsor-Essex still has the highest jobless rate in the country. For some international students, it's meant their degrees aren't delivering on jobs. Pratyush Thayal reports.
The Windsor-Essex population is approaching 500,000 and many international students are coming here to study. And while the number of jobs in the region is increasing, it's still a highly competitive market, and that has many international students worried.
And I made hundreds of applications per day.
But still no luck for Shivani Trivedi, who is graduating this spring with a master's in medical biotechnology from the University of Windsor. She has a job to pay the bills, but worries there are no local jobs in her field. It's a harsh reality for many students.
I have 130 students, like a cohort of 130, but only I think 5 or 10 are in the medical field, or they're working in laboratories, or they're working in the industry, like pharmaceutical industry. So all of them are doing all jobs like me, working on MACD or Real Canadian Superstore. Some days I just sit in my bed and I'll just cry.
This international student studying for a master's in applied computing says he's having a similar experience.
So in Windsor area, it's very hard to find an IT job.
His friend and classmate has applied for 275 jobs so far.
So I've been looking for the past 1 year for proper SIN-based jobs here and there, and until now I have failed, unfortunately.
In terms of discrimination, is a majority of folks are either strongly agreeing or agreeing.
Workforce Windsor-Essex recently surveyed nearly 200 international students, asking about how they are faring in the area's job market.
So it was about 60% of folks said that it was difficult to find work. The longer folks had been here based on the responses that we were seeing, the higher or the more likely it was that they had found work, period.
If you want to get like international degree, you can come here, but there is no surety that you will survive in this scenario.
Shivani Trivedi says she wishes she had known about the job market here before coming to Canada. She says if she doesn't find a job soon, she will head home to India. One expert I spoke with who deals with economic integration of immigrants says more transparency is needed about students' chances for success. Pratyush Thayal, CBC News, Windsor.
We did hear back from the University of Windsor, and it says it does not guarantee employment outcomes as they're influenced by factors like the job market and broader economic conditions. We're going to shift gears now. Imagine this, your holiday decorations getting trashed. What would you do? Well, instead of getting angry, a Nova Scotia homeowner used the polite approach. Check this out.
It was our neighborhood buck helping himself to the decorations on the step. And I politely told him to back off. Excuse me, Buck? Hey, hi. Can you stop eating my holiday arrangement? You back off, buddy. Okay, Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. No, no. Stop. No. When they get startled, sometimes they fall down or they take the railing out with them. So I just wanted him to back off. He did come back twice since, and he was helping himself to the holly in the arrangement. And at one point, he looks up and looks directly at the doorbell, waiting for me to say something, and then went back to his dinner.
A cute little holiday visitor. Stay with us. We will be right back. Welcome back. The Liberal Party is scrambling to find its next leader after Justin Trudeau's resignation. But that's just one of several challenges lying ahead. Ashley Burke reports.
Justin Trudeau's back at work, but not for long. The Liberal Party's figuring out how to replace him. And now some senior Liberals are deciding if they'll run in that leadership race.
I'm seriously considering that. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be sitting here talking about that today.
But the question is, can a new face drag the party out of a deep hole?
By Trudeau resigning, he's given them the rope and a chance to pull themselves out of that hole.
Dan Arnold, Trudeau's former pollster, says over the past 18 months, the party's faced a steady decline in the polls, and so far nothing's changed that. But a new leader could create buzz.
It is true that a leadership change will cause voters to take a second look at the Liberal Party, but it's not a guarantee this is going to turn things around for the Liberals. It's not a magic potion.
He points to the U.S., where Kamala Harris enjoyed a surge of momentum when she replaced Joe Biden, but faced a bruising defeat. And it's happened throughout Canadian history, too.
John Turner came in replacing another Trudeau prime minister. Surge of excitement, didn't end very well for him. Kim Campbell came in replacing a very unpopular prime minister. Surge of excitement, ended horribly for her with 2 seats.
Whoever replaces Trudeau could be the shortest-serving prime minister in history if they don't win a general election this year.
At this stage, we're not seeing anybody who is so popular or so well known that they would immediately reverse the fortunes and really put some turbocharge into the Liberal Party's prospects. But at least some of them certainly have the potential to lift the party back up.
Former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney says he's considering running, and other cabinet colleagues like former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is making calls too.
Any current sitting cabinet minister who decides to run for leadership will have to work out how they communicate to Liberals and to the Canadian public how they are different from the Prime Minister who's just stepped away.
The Liberals' National Board is meeting this week to figure out how this leadership race will unfold. Once the rules come out, we'll start to see exactly who is joining this race. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
In international news, a strong earthquake has struck Tibet, killing several people. It happened near Mount Everest, in a remote area not built to withstand such shocks. Cameron McIntosh has more.
This shows precisely when the earthquake struck. Registering magnitude 7.1, it flattened buildings, killing more than 120 people, injuring many more. Numbers likely to increase as searchers scour for survivors.
Yeah, I felt it, yeah. And everyone in my home and around the neighborhood felt it.
This aid worker in Kathmandu says it's hard to fully evaluate the damage.
If there are other shaking or aftershocks are there might be more damages that can potentially happen.
More than 150 aftershocks have hit already. The epicenter was near a remote and sparsely populated area close to the border with Nepal, about 80 kilometers north of Mount Everest, where the quake was felt at base camp, according to the United States Geological Survey. It destroyed buildings more than 180 kilometers away. Tibet is an autonomous region of China. The Chinese government has sent 1,500 rescue workers. Tibet's exiled leader, the Dalai Lama, issued a statement that he was saddened by the devastating earthquake and loss of life. The area's remoteness making it difficult to assess the full damage in an area simply not built to withstand earthquakes.
So the risk still remains. The structures there are still very vulnerable.
People are very worried about this.
In Canada, the Tibetan and Nepali communities are watching closely. 10 years ago, the area was hit by another massive earthquake. Ashish Mishra lived through it, is busy now checking in with family.
We're keeping our fingers crossed, we don't want lots of casualties, but I think that's inevitable.
It will likely take days to be certain. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
When we come back, Colette will be with us once again for weather and will tell us how long is that cold snap gonna stay cold. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is with us once again for more on weather. Colette, a chilly day, so how long do we have to stay bundled up for?
Well, a little while longer, that's for sure, Katerina, because it was chilly today, and in fact, it gets a little bit colder overnight tonight and through the day tomorrow. Then after that, we'll begin a slow and gentle climb to get temperatures back closer to seasonal, and in fact flipping the other way a little bit. Our current readings -3. Keeping in mind last night we were down to -5, and at this time of year seasonal low is actually around -8, so I wouldn't say it was balmy, but we were a little above seasonal. The current wind chill, though, we certainly have to factor in these winds, that northwesterly flow. So at the moment it feels like -11 Sarnia, -10 Chatham, Kent and Windsor here, coming in at -9. So there are those winds. Yeah, still some areas where sustained, they're around 20, and push up towards Goderich, and those sustained winds are closer to 40, and that's driving some squalls still. Yes, they're looking at some of this lake effect from Goderich to London. I've mentioned before, I'll mention again, if you have any traveling to do here coming out of southwestern Ontario and beyond, you could encounter some whiteout conditions. And really, that's going to carry on into tonight and tomorrow before those winds ease. Now, what can we expect? Well, from time to time, the odd flurry certainly possible back towards Windsor and Leamington, Essex through this region. But other than that, it's mostly just that we have some of that cloud cover, and we're kind of on the border. We could get some sunny breaks early in the day here, but I would expect that much of the day is mostly cloudy for tomorrow. Then we get into Thursday, and what you'll notice as we break out of that a little bit. So getting more verified sunshine coming our way as we get a little bit further into the week, and it's as we get into Thursday and Friday that we'll actually find those temperatures starting to respond a little bit better as well. So overnight tonight, yeah, twice as cold as last night. I mean, in the sense that it was -5, and now we're going to -10, and we're still going to have to contend with those winds, making it feel even colder, okay? But let's just look at these daytime highs and overnight lows as we move forward. So Wednesday's high is just -5, could even have a few flurries tomorrow. It's just generally mostly cloudy. We get that sunshine into Thursday, but Thursday morning we start from -11, and then the daytime high climbs to -3, a little bit better here as we go into the weekend. Not only with those temperatures, but the overnight lows are slightly milder too, and those are a bit above seasonal. We do have a chance for some light snow or flurries, though, to end off the week.
I'm just holding on to you saying we might have a sunny break tomorrow, so I'm just going to look forward to that.
Okay,
Thanks, Colette.
more to come into Thursday.
Yay! Thanks, Colette. Good night, everybody.